Welcome everyone to the Q&A session for our upcoming course, Natural Dreamwork and the Sacred Encounter, the 7-week journey to dissolve the ego, embody deeper feelings, and receive your soul's wisdom. I'm Lisa Bonis, and it's my honor to be hosting this Q&A conversation for the Shift Network, where we'll explore the teachings of Rodger Kamenetz and address questions about his upcoming 7-week course, Natural Dreamwork and the Sacred Encounter, which begins Thursday, December 12th. And a little later, I'll explain how you can participate in the course, even if you can't attend the live sessions. But first, I want to introduce our guest. Rodger Kamenetz is an award-winning poet, author, and teacher. Of his 12 books, his best known is The Jew and the Lotus, the story of rabbis making a holy pilgrimage through India to meet with the Dalai Lama. And when his book, The History of Last Night's Dream, was published, Oprah Winfrey interviewed him on her Soul Series program. Rodger was educated at Yale, Stanford, and Johns Hopkins University, and he lives in New Orleans, where he is a professor emeritus, retiring with a dual appointment as professor of English and professor of religious studies at LSU, where he was also an LSU distinguished professor and Sternberg honors professor. Quite a lot of accomplishments there. And in just a few minutes, we're going to open up for your questions. But first, I want to bring Rodger online. Welcome, Rodger. It's great to be with you this evening.
Thanks, Lisa. Nice to see you. Nice to see everybody.
I'm really looking forward to hearing about your work. So I wonder if you would maybe start us off with just a brief introduction of what it is that you do.
Okay. Well, I do natural dream work, and this is a practice that I've been developing with my colleagues over the past 15 years. So our approach to the dream is a little different from most approaches because we don't interpret dreams, we bring them to life. And by that I mean we teach people really how to experience their dreams through the images and the presences that they encounter in the dream and moments of deep, deep feeling. So by learning to kind of set aside interpretation or looking up symbols and interpreting the dream kind of from the outside, we're asking people to re-enter the dream with us and really experience it in the body and in the heart. So that approach, technically it's called phenomenological, meaning simply whatever appears subjectively to you in the dream becomes the dream fact. And by focusing on that, we help guide people to the really important moments in the dreams. And as we'll be talking in the course, the most important moment to look for is what we call the sacred encounter. So that's a little bit, Lisa. I hope that's a good start.
Yeah, I think that's enough to whet everybody's appetite. So we have the rest of our time together to dive into our viewers' questions for Rodger as we prepare for the upcoming course. Again, it's called Natural Dreamwork and the Sacred Encounter. And once again, it begins Thursday, December 12th. And if you want to check out the website and learn more about the 7-week course, you can visit naturaldreamworkcourse.com to see the full description. So let's go ahead and get started with some questions. If you have a question for Rodger, go ahead and type it in, and I'll be happy to read them aloud as they come in. And in the meantime, we've already gathered some questions, so let's start with some of those. In fact, let's start out with a foundational question here. We've got somebody who's asking, what is an example of a sacred encounter that a dreamer might have, and what is it that a sacred encounter is actually telling us?
Okay, that's a great question. Thank you. So first of all, when we speak of the sacred, we speak of the possibility of awe or reverence or deep feeling along those lines. And when they arise in relationship to an object or a thing in the dream, it's a sacred encounter with an image. And those can be very, very important. But generally, the most important are the encounters with presences. I was looking over a dream recently, and a presence could be, of course, a person or an animal, or even, for instance, in a certain way, a tornado could be a presence in a dream. But by presence, we mean basically a personified image. So a fellow read me a dream where he was with a whole lot of other people, and they were sitting packed together in tremendous fear because there were lions walking around where they were, and he felt like if we moved, we would be killed. And then there's this moment in the dream where one of the lions comes right up to him, and he can feel the breath of the lion on his face. Now, when he woke, his heart was pounding, and it's really a moment of terror, I suppose. But it's also an awesome moment. And the dream gives you the opportunity to experience this kind of moment, and to reflect on it more deeply. So that would be one example. I think a pretty common example, and I'd say widespread, would be the dream that most people have had at one point or another, where a dear one who has departed returns in a dream. And when this person comes back, one of the qualities of such dreams is that the person feels so alive. And we always, when we have such a dream, we wake up, we always remember it. And it always carries a strong sense of a real encounter, a real sense of presence, even though at the same time the person is gone. So these can be very powerful dreams. They can be very healing dreams. And so that's probably those are probably two basic examples of a sacred encounter in dreams that we would want to explore and feel more deeply. Now, the second part of the question was interesting because the question was about meaning. And one of the things that makes our approach different is, instead of an attempt to extract a message or a meaning, we actually just try to feel the moment more and more deeply. And I make this analogy. If you were walking in a forest and you saw a redwood tree, and you just stood there for a moment and just took it in because it was so beautiful and it's so high. You're looking up at it and just feeling the sky and the silence. And someone came up to you and said, "What did the redwood tree mean?" You'd say, "It's not a meaning, it's an experience," right? It's an experience I felt deeply. And so our focus is not to extract messages or teachings, although very often in dreams we do receive those when we have a relationship with a teacher in a dream, but rather, in fact, to develop a relationship with the teachers in our dreams or the healers in our dreams, who are often quite tricky, surprising, and magical.
Okay, thank you. And I'm glad you brought up the concept of being dreaming about someone who has passed, a loved one who is now deceased, because there are people here who are asking, when you dream about somebody who's on the other side, what are your views? Are you actually being sort of visited by their actual spirit, or is this just a dream? What are your thoughts on that?
One of the things I'd want to say about the phrase "just a dream" is that it's part of a long history in which we perhaps overvalue waking life experience and undervalue imaginative experience. And I just want to put forward that the experiences in our dreams are real. We speak of them as the facts of the dream, by which I mean, what did you see? What did you smell? What did you taste? Who did you touch? Who touched you? How far away? All of these I would call the facts of the dream. So when we're in the dream, when the lion is breathing on you and your heart is pounding, it's not a symbol of a lion. It's a lion. And that's very important to keep in mind. So when we speak of these kinds of dreams that raise such tender questions about how we might have a relationship with people who have died physically, and it is a mystery. And I'm not, I don't want to explain it. I want you to experience it and feel it, and then you'll know for yourself how you want to fit that in to your point of view. So it's real because the feelings are real, because your feelings are real. And that's the most important thing. And I have seen so many dreams like this where long-held stories about those who've died suddenly get reframed and changed by the dream. I had a client who had a story about her dad, that somehow her dad was had neglected her when he was alive. And after he died, she started having these dreams where he took her swimming. And so one thing that was happening was, I said, well, I didn't know your dad. Did your dad take you swimming? She said, oh, yeah, he used to take me swimming. And did you feel close to him then? Yeah, I did. So it's almost like the dreams were trying to remind her of other ways in which she had relationship with him. And really the most powerful dream for her was very simple. After he died, he came and he was younger, and she felt close to him. And then when she awoke, she felt so much pain and realized with that pain, there was also so much love. So when our dead come, they continue our relationship. In some ways, they can help us heal and kind of break through our old stories, which is a big part of what we'll be talking about, how to overcome the same old story that we keep telling ourselves and about others.
That was a beautiful answer. I appreciate that. Here's another question that a lot of people are asking. For example, Sherry is saying, if everyone dreams, why can't I remember them? Some people just aren't remembering their dreams. Do you have any suggestions to help them?
Yes. I understand what Sherry is saying, and I hear that question a lot because when we start talking about dreams, and it seems so exciting, and I said in my book, In the History of Last Night's Dream, it's like being alive twice, to have a dream life. So you have a waking life, and you can have a dream life, and it's like you have twice as much living. But yeah, then for some, they feel left out. It's sorrowful not to have the dream. So the first thing I would say is feel that. In other words, when you wake, let's say you wake and you know you had an amazing dream, but you can't remember. It's disappeared. Then just take a moment to feel that loss, to feel that sense of loss, because that's beginning to call to you to take your dreams more seriously. A simple thing is, don't be too strict about what you think a dream is. Most people think, oh, a dream would be this long, complicated story with lots of activity and action. It could be just a single image. Maybe all you remember is a cricket chirping, or you heard a single word spoken. When I first started working with my dreams, I had dreams like that. But what I did was I wrote them down with just as much care as a, quote, regular dream. And I began to realize that there were no dreams I was having that weren't in some way significant. So, it's good to have a nice notebook. In the bonus for the course, we give a number of tips for how to remember your dreams, how to record your dreams. So you can check that out too. We'll be talking a bit about that in the course as well. But I'd say the most important thing, I'll leave with this, is don't be too focused on the setting or every detail, but really try to remember the feelings. Try to remember most of all the moments of the most feeling or the most reaction. It could be a feeling like pain or love or fear or even disgust, a valid feeling. Or it could be a reaction. It could be guilt or shame or anxiety. So whatever, either the feeling or the reaction, if you have those in your dreams, try to remember them. And I think that's also a helpful way to begin to remember your dreams better.
Okay, great. Just sort of pay attention to whatever detail you can recall. All right. I would like to also mention to everybody my internet is acting up a little bit, so don't be surprised if I freeze mid word. But in the meantime, we'll go ahead and plow forward. This is another really frequently asked question. In fact, I think this one we have more than anything else. People are asking about what is the significance of becoming paralyzed with fear. One actually goes on where this happens when you're encountering an unknown person, but other people are just plain asking about that sleep paralysis. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think um, sometimes in a dream we want to speak and the words won't come out. We want to make a gesture, and we're in a state of terror. And in a certain way, the dream is taking away our characteristic way of handling stuff, by which I mean avoiding feeling. Because unfortunately, a lot of us don't live a life of feeling. We live a life of reaction or of numbness. And if we live that way in waking life, then often our dreams may show that, a lack of feeling or a lack of an inability to feel. The particular case of sleep paralysis, it's complicated, and it's. I'll put it this way. I mean, basically, the body is somewhat paralyzed during REM sleep, as I understand it. So maybe a person's half awake and half asleep, so they are kind of experiencing that paralysis. But people have trauma. And one response to trauma is freezing, is being unable to move. So that can also be a factor. There's so many different things you could say about this. The important thing, again, is not just to remember any detail, but to try to find the moments of feeling. So there are a lot of phenomena around dreams that are fascinating, but we want to focus primarily on this issue of feeling and embodiment of feeling in your body and how you experience that, or perhaps you don't experience it. For instance, let's say you dream. I had a client who dreamed of a lion, and then she decided to shut the lion in a laundry room. Well, if you're really feeling deeply in the presence of a lion, I don't think you're going to try to shut it in a laundry room. So what that was saying was really more something about how she handles intense feeling, in this case, awe or terror, by kind of shutting it off into this workplace.
Interesting. Huh. Okay. All right. Let's move to a question here from Norman, who says, feeling deeper can be wonderful, but also challenging. Sometimes dreams bring me images that I'm not very comfortable with. How would you recommend I stay in relationship to the dream without being overwhelmed?
I really appreciate Norman's question. Thank you for that. I would say it is a learning, isn't it? It takes time to learn how to be with the feelings in your dreams. And sometimes they offer feelings that have been kind of kept in the basement, kept way, way down. And we've found ways to ignore or overlook moments of feeling or of intensity. Bam, they come up in our dreams instead. And then they're really strong too. So I think it's a learning. The great thing about the dream is that when you have such a moment, as I think Norman's describing, you can go back to it at your leisure and just take a little bite of it. Okay, I'm just going to spend a second revisualizing, revisiting this moment. And gradually, it's like, any practice like yoga or something, you have to work through the pain, but you kind of move through it and get better and better. You can spend a little bit longer and a little bit longer with the feeling itself and begin to overcome your characteristic reactivity, which is helping you avoid feeling. So, I could give an example, but I'm going to hold the space for some more questions, and then maybe we'll get back to that.
Okay, great. We'll do that. Let's go to another topic entirely. Again, something a few people are asking about. This is a little bit long, so give me a second to read this. This is from Kelly, who says, what about recurring dreams? For example, I've been dreaming about my high school boyfriend for 40 years. In real life, it turned out that he was gay, but we still really loved each other back then. It's always the same dream. I'm deeply saddened that he doesn't want me. I think it's obvious what the dream means, so I don't understand why I keep having it. What are your thoughts on recurring dreams?
Right. So, whose dream was that? I'm sorry.
That was Kelly.
Kelly, right.
Yeah.
So, hi, Kelly. Thanks for sharing that dream. So, notice that if we think of dreams as a message or a meaning, which I heard a little bit in the end of that, then yeah, we keep getting the same answer over and over. But it really isn't a meaning. It's an encounter. You're encountering this fellow, and it would be interesting to know how far apart you are, what is said, how he looks, how you look. Do you speak? Is there an opportunity to speak? There's so many ways, where when we begin to feel it as an experience, and bring some imagination to it and stop thinking of it as a message, then the dream comes to life. So that's why we keep saying we don't interpret the dream, we bring it to life. And by bringing it to life, if I were working with you in a session, I might be asking those kinds of questions. And I probably focus on what you were feeling, but also, well, what did he say or not say? Or what did you say or not say? And could you say something now? Do you express this sadness in the dream? I don't know, of course. So there's so many possibilities, but I'd like to give an example, and maybe that'll help Kelly, of a different kind of dream. I had many recurring dreams in which now I remember I taught at the university for 28 years. And so I had a dream where I'd come into the classroom and I didn't know what the subject was. So, and this reflects my personality, but I thought, well, I'll throw out a few things, and by the response of the students, I'll kind of figure out what I'm teaching. Students ignored me. They turned away, they started walking out. I had many versions of the same exact dream, and just like Kelly was saying, over and over, the same thing. So if I thought of the dream as a message, okay, people will explain dreams. By the way, the word explain means to flatten out. Literally, explanare means to flatten out. So they'll flatten out their dreams by explaining, oh, that's an anxiety dream. Okay, thanks. But that doesn't allow the dream to come to life. So the person I was working with at that time, a teacher, said, well, how do you know you're the teacher? Does anyone say you're the teacher? I said, well, of course I'm the teacher. I've been teaching for 25 years. He said, yeah, but did anyone say you're the teacher? Maybe you're not the teacher. So I had to start thinking about that. Well, maybe I wasn't the teacher. So I began to think about that and feel it and think about, why did I think I was the teacher? Maybe I wasn't the teacher. And what does it mean to be a teacher? What does it mean to relate to people as if you're a teacher, instead of just relating to them as a fellow student? And so eventually I had a dream where I came into the classroom and I realized I wasn't the teacher and I had no anxieties. And then the teacher walked in. And that was a very beautiful moment. So these dreams that recur can be moved if we learn to find out what the feeling possibility is in the dream.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we've got a lot of people chiming in now. I have recurring dreams too, so I think that addressing this was a good idea. Thank you. Here's another one. This is from Sandra, who says, how do drugs affect our dreams? I rubbed some THC on my jaw in order to release pain from teeth clenching, and I had the most vivid, horrible, frightening dream ever. It still haunts me when I think about it. So how do How do we deal with the fact that, I mean, maybe somebody has to take prescriptions every night? How do you deal with that?
That's interesting. I know that smoking marijuana can actually inhibit dreaming. And I'm surprised to hear the THC actually caused a vivid dream, but you never know. I want to give you my attitude, which is I view dreams as a natural resource, like a beautiful natural mountain or forest or woodland or river. And so I just want to receive the dream as it is. I don't want to take a drug to have more intense dreams. I figure if the dreams want to be intense with me, that they'll let me know. So I don't try to monkey with that. I think dreaming is one area where we can just have the natural experience. That's why I call it natural dream work, right? We don't have to monkey with it or start getting the ego or the mind involved, right? And trying to control our dreams. One of our big problems is we control everything in waking life, and you may have noticed things aren't going so well. So maybe in dreams we can let go of that and just experience the dream naturally. So I'm not an expert on what drugs can do to dreaming. I'm sure they do affect us, but I'm personally not one to try to intervene with the dream and make it more vivid. I feel like that's kind of it's a control thing, isn't it? Like I'm trying to control my experience, and I'm not receiving it as it's actually coming to me.
Okay, it's an interesting take. Thank you. For those of you who are just joining us, we're here with Rodger Kamenetz, learning about his upcoming course, Natural Dreamwork and the Sacred Encounter, which begins Thursday, December 12th. And you can log on to naturaldreamworkcourse.com for all the details and to register. So let's get back to questions here. We've got one here from Natalie who says, I remember many dreams each night. So what do you suggest? How do you suggest focusing? Let me start over. What do you suggest focusing on, especially when they all seem special?
Natalie asked, what do I focus on when they all seem special? Well, I agree with her. There are feelings and important experiences in each of our dreams. I don't make a distinction between big dreams and little dreams. They're all part of a larger arc of dreaming that we're going to be talking about towards the end of the course. That is over a period of time. So you never know when some motif or some small thing shows up in one dream and then shows up in a different way in another one. So what I try to do is simply record as many of them as I have time to and as I can remember. And I hear in Natalie's question something I like to do, which is to cherish my experience in dreams. In other words, to spend time with them and to find those moments, again, of most feeling intensity, most vivid sensual experience, because those tend to be the moments of encounter where the most is happening. And then I try to observe, how did I deal with that? Did I freak out? Did I run away? Did I bypass it? Did I drive past it? Or did I stay with it? And if I did ignore it or react to it, can I go back and set the dream just before I reacted? And we call this an operation. We kind of stop. Just stop there before you reacted and feel more intensely. Let's say you encounter someone in a dream and it's so intense you yell at the person, drive that person away. Can you go to the moment before you got angry and find out what you were feeling there? Maybe it was pain. Maybe it was fear. But only you can know by going back to that moment. So by doing that, we're cherishing the feelings in our dreams and noticing the reactions. And those reactions are also helpful in helping us see how in waking life maybe we avoid feeling. I want to say that feeling is so important because feeling is what allows us to have relationships with people. And I think relationships are really, really important in our dreams and in waking life.
Okay. Okay, great. Now we've got a follow up to something you said a little while ago. There's no name attached to this, so it's an anonymous question. If the dream is not a message, what's the purpose of living the dream like you do?
Mm. So I do try to live the dream, but what I say is we bring the dream to life. A little bit different. By which I mean, instead of looking to interpret the dream and find the message, we try to reenact the dream and feel the feelings, because the feelings have healing in them. Um, they may be feelings that are difficult, but they're feelings that we need to feel, that the dream is offering us. So if a dream brings a lion, there's terror. If a dream brings a teacher, maybe that's a chance for us to become a student. If it brings a lover, it's a chance to feel love. So dreams give us an opportunity to feel more deeply in our dream, and that can be a template for discovering feelings and ultimately relationships in waking life. So that's one thing. There's so much ultimately when you're more receptive to feeling in your dreams, it opens up into this world of, where you can be you can receive healing from what you might call the healers in our dreams. You can receive teachings from the teachers in our dreams, and you can receive love from parental figures or friends in our dreams. So that becomes a template for waking life. So I hope that clarifies. It's not about learning something intellectually. It's usually about learning a way of feeling through the relationship with these archetypal figures in our dreams.
Okay, yeah, I think that helps clear it up. But you brought up an interesting point that somebody here has a question. You sort of addressed this. The question is, you mentioned that dreams can help heal. How do you define healing? What's being healed with the help of a dream?
Well, the short answer is the imagination. So, the poet William Wordsworth, about 200 years ago, suffered a really serious depression, and partly because of events in his life around the time of the French Revolution. And he came to realize that what we would probably call depression or anxiety, loss of spirit today, he understood it as impaired imagination. So the imagination gets impaired, and then we're no longer able to imagine a better life or a future or the possibility of change or the possibility of a new relationship. And we're stuck in this same old story. It's kind of like the recurring dream. Our life itself becomes a recurring and dull dream. So he discovered that the way to heal the impaired imagination is through images, through our encounters with images, whether in waking life or in our dreams, because images have the power to restore the impaired imagination. I'd like to give an example. I had a client who, she had a dream where, it's a very simple dream in a way. She was sitting on a cane chair in Central America. She'd been at a retreat there. And this large hen kind of walks up to her, walks right under her chair, and lays this enormous blue egg. Okay, so that's the event in the dream. But what was fascinating was her reaction. She was so amazed by the egg. It seemed to her in the dream so beautiful, so wondrous. So she just went on and on. It was like this childlike wonder that this had happened and that she saw this incredible blue egg. So we got to see that the dream was putting her back in touch with restoring her sense of childlike wonder through that encounter. And so the images in dreams, and certainly also some of the personified images we call imagos that you encounter in your dreams, can help restore the impaired imagination. That is, bring us back to a life of feeling and show us also how we fall prey to reactivity and control.
Okay, thank you. Here's a follow-up to the recurring dream subject. Jasmine is saying, so many things have changed in my life, yet almost all of my dreams take place in my childhood home where a lot of trauma and bad things happened. Why do you think this is?
Well, Jasmine, I'm sure that's difficult. And first of all, I'm glad that things are going well in your waking life. And maybe, the dreams are offering you a chance to explore some of what got left behind or that needs exploration now. So even though it could be unpleasant and difficult, and I understand that, try to, focus on the feelings in the dreams and see if there are if there's any figures in the dream that might be trying to help you. I was watching the documentary of Mr. Rodgers, and his mother once said, when there's some kind of catastrophe going on, look for the people who are helping. And that's also true in our dreams. There are people who may want to help us. We may overlook them because they don't look official. They may be a homeless person, or it may be, it may not be a glowing divine figure who's actually the one that's going to help you. So that would be, not knowing your work at all. Of course, I can't really speak except in generalities, but it may be that there, if there really is trauma, that's a very difficult thing with dreams. And dreams are very tender in the way they approach trauma, and they often almost chop the trauma up into little pieces, and they don't follow a linear pattern. They'll give you one little piece here and one little piece there, and gradually you get to respond to that and build up your strength with that, and eventually you get to face into the deeper feeling that underlies the trauma. That is, the trauma layer can be a layer of non-feeling, sort of a barrier to feeling. And so the dreams sort of can gently take you down into the moments of trauma, if there were moments of trauma.
Okay, thank you. Here's one I can really relate to this question. This is from Parthenia, who says, some dreams leave us with a powerful yearning to stay with the dream. Waking up feels full of grief. The yearning to remain with the dream is so strong that returning to ordinary life pales beside the dream life, even if I can't remember fully the content of the dream that evokes such longing. Can you please say a few words about this?
Well, Parthenia, that's so interesting. I think that being deep in the feelings in our dreams and being able to learn how to feel them more deeply and linger there it can be a very rich, enriching experience. I'm not quite sure if there's some concern there on her part, on Parthenia's part, or whether she's just saying that, gee, this is the way I'm experiencing it. But I like to linger over my dreams sometimes and hang out. And I think one good way to remember your dreams, if you're fortunate enough not to have to jump out of bed and do, a lot of household things, is to be able to sort of leisurely linger with your dreams for a while and spend some time there. I think it's good for feeling, and it's good for the imagination.
Okay, well, I'm going to speak for Parthenia because, like I said, I can relate to this. When sometimes a dream will be so either so happy or so there's just so much wonderfulness in there, and you feel so great, and then you wake up and you go, no, I don't want to leave this dream. And I think that's probably, well, that seems to be what she's asking, is when she says, please say a few words about this, is what's happening here?
So maybe if let's say the feeling is really delicious and joyful and loving, and then you wake and that's not in your life, right? Then there's a lot of pain. I once had a client, and he had a beautiful dream. He was walking on the beach with his wife and his daughter, and it's just a beautiful day, and the waves were coming in, and he was so happy. And then when he woke, he was in so much pain because he doesn't have a wife and he doesn't have a daughter. So dreams sometimes, awaken us to the dimension of feeling that we don't often think about. We have these feeling words, like we say pain and love, and we think they're the opposite. But really, I've come to see that our dreams take us to a depth to understand that really there's something called pain love, that the capacity to feel love is also a capacity to feel pain, and vice versa. And so if I think if a dream is very beautiful and lovely, and we're not, it's also given us a template to look in waking life. Like if we contemplate the lovely feeling in the dream, can we learn it? Can we really learn how it feels in the body and what gives it, was it looking at a flower? Was it a certain person and the way that person was with us? What awakened the feeling? And then that gives us a little swatch, you might say, to match in waking life and to begin to look. Which of my friends makes me feel that way? Maybe I need some new friends, or new experiences. What am I doing in my waking life that kind of shuts me down from being able to have this feeling? So it can be very helpful, even though, in fact, the immediate response can be quite painful.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Looking at the clock here, we have time for a few more questions, but before we take those, I want to give a few details about the course because people are asking about that as well, and I'll go ahead and field those. Once again, the name of the course is Natural Dreamwork and the Sacred Encounter. And this is going to be a life-changing 7-week journey with Rodger, with his expert guidance, where you'll move beyond dream interpretation and recognize how your sacred encounter dreams can enrich your waking life with more imagination, love, and joy. And the 7-week course takes place on Thursdays at 9 a.m. Pacific, starting Thursday, December 12th. And if you can't join us live, that's fine. You won't miss the teachings. You'll receive audio and video recordings, transcripts, and all course handouts on your course homepage. And also, I'd like to remind everyone that the Shift Network offers a no-risk money-back guarantee on all of our courses, giving you until January 9th in this case to make sure that you absolutely love it. And as an added option, all participants are welcome to connect in a private Facebook community group so you can stay connected with one another. Also, everyone who registers receives the Natural Dreamwork and the Sacred Encounter bonus collection. First, you'll receive a video dialogue with a PDF companion from Rodger and Kezia Vida entitled How to Write Down Your Dream the Natural Dreamwork Way. Next, you'll get a video teaching with a PDF companion from Rodger called Dream Poetry. And you'll also be able to submit a dream and receive feedback from a member of the Natural Dreamwork team. And plus, you'll receive a one-on-one session raffle entry for a session with a member of the Natural Dreamwork team. And when you register by midnight Pacific on Thursday, December 5th, you'll receive this extra gift, and that is an audio dialogue with Rodger and Susan Audrey entitled Natural Dreamwork and the Sacred Encounter. So before we get back into our viewers' questions, Rodger, let me ask you, what are you most looking forward to in your upcoming course?
Well, I think I just feel like through the Shift Network, are beginning to connect with a wider audience, an international audience. I'm very excited about that. I'm excited by the opportunity to not only teach our way of working with dreams, natural dream work, but also to invite people to respond to dreams creatively with writing or drawing or songwriting or whatever they want to do. Trying to get away from this idea that the only thing to do with a dream is interpret it and turn it into message and symbols, but instead, no, the dream is an experience that you can live from and live into. So we're going to try to really emphasize that in the course, and I think I'm looking forward to seeing what the responses are from the folks who take the course.
All right, great. Well, you're certainly going to have a lot of questions from people because they're pouring in. In fact, we just got a few different people asking for your thoughts on lucid dreaming.
Well, thank you, folks, for asking about lucid dreaming. So I would say that in time, in the way that we approach it, we give people moments from the dream moments to relive during the week or 2 weeks between sessions. This is when I do my practice, or we do our practice with people. And by doing that over time, the consciousness begins to sink in more deeply. It begins to affect the person so deeply that when you're in the dream, you naturally respond in new ways. So it's a kind of lucidity, but it's not intellectually directed. There's no trick to it. It's rather you just begin to feel more deeply, so that when the person who might be your teacher shows up in the dream, instead of turning away out of fear or anger, you actually face in and begin to take in what the person is saying to you. So I would call it a kind of natural lucidity. And I would say that, I wrote a book about dialogue with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and so I'm somewhat familiar with Tibetan dream yoga, as it's called, which has been adapted in the West. I would just say that, the real question is what kind of consciousness is directing the lucidity. So, in other words, if you're, is it the ego or is it the soul? So through our work, we have this whole process by which the soul begins to appear in our dreams as the child, and by seeing the child and then ultimately being the child, you have a whole different way of looking at the events in the dream. On the other hand, if you come into a dream, let's say someone had a dream where a homeless person came into the house and immediately put a gun to the person's throat. And the guy was about to, scream at the guy and tell him to get out. And in that moment, the dreamer experienced just absolute terror. Now, if he'd been trained to control his dreams, he might have, said, oh, well, now I'll produce a gun myself and kill the guy. And in that sense, lucid dreaming would have been working against what the dream was trying to bring him. So I guess you can sense that, natural means actually experiencing what the dream offered you naturally and not trying to come into the dream with some sort of outside program to control what's going on. So I think lucid dreaming, it can be wonderful. I know people often have tremendous success and experiences with it, so I'm not putting it down. If you've had great experiences with it, that's great. It's just not the way we do it. We do it probably a little slower.
Okay, interesting. We're getting so many really great questions. I'm not sure where to go. Let's go to one from Carol here, who says, my dreams are so vivid lately that they're disruptive to the point of not feeling like I got a good night's sleep. They feel very real. How can I change or adjust to this? Right.
Well, again, I would ask, Carol, what were the feelings in the dream? Dreams can come in different styles. So sometimes they're documentary style, very realistic. Sometimes they're almost like cartoons. Same person can have both kinds of dreams, but I'm getting the sense that this dream has this vivid quality. And one thing I would say is that vivid quality, what do you feel when it's vivid? And it sounds, I'm just inferring this, and again, I feel like I have two hands tied behind my back. I really would need to talk to you and get a better sense. But this quality you're calling vivid sounds like I'm hearing that it's frightening. So what's going on there? Like, what is the fear about? And maybe one question I'd ask is, do you ever feel that in waking life? And in what sorts of experiences do you feel that intensity? Intensity of experience can be painful. It can be joyful and painful. So again, we have to learn to stretch our ability to experience our feelings. And when it gets to be too much, we need to back off a little bit and just say, okay, I relived the dream. And I spent just a second or two with it, and then I'm going to put it aside for now. I don't know whether it's interfering with your sleep. I can't say. It might be. On the other hand, you might be dreaming very, very deeply. So, in which case, perhaps you are doing okay with the sleep. I don't know enough to say. Sorry.
Well, that's one reason to take the course, because then they can interact with you directly during Q&A. So you're doing a fine job answering things blind.
Well, I'd ask a lot of questions, as you can tell. So
Right. Here's one. There's no name attached to this, but the question is very simple. Where do precognitive dreams come from?
I think there are precognitive dreams. I know there are. I don't know the answer to that question, where they come from. But what I do know is that dreams, we're going to talk about this in the class, the quality of space, time, and feeling interacting in a dream is really unique. And maybe dreams are giving us an intimation that time is not exactly what we think it is in waking life. So in waking life, we think there's a before and an after. Sometimes in dreams, maybe they get turned around or even become more vertical. So are dreams giving us an intuition of a deeper sense of what time really is? It's possible. The French philosopher, phenomenologist Gaston Bachelard, whose book The Poetics of Space is so beautiful, talks about, he was trying to understand, Einstein's theory of space-time, where space and time are folded into each other. And he felt that dreams actually give us a sense of that. And it's true sometimes that time gets speeded up, it slows down. A moment can feel like a year in a dream. So maybe dreams are showing us something about time that we don't quite yet understand in waking life.
Okay, very Doctor Who kind of answer. Thank you for that. Here's a question from Sandy, who says, is it useful to ask, what is the single most important insight that the dream is trying to get across to me?
Sandy, that's a good question. I think the most important thing a dream's trying to get across to us is that we are loved. And it's not a message, it's an experience and a feeling. And I think when we come to understand that in a powerful way, it really changes your life.
I think I'm going to have to ask you to expand on that a little bit.
Well, one of the things we wanted to touch on in the class is that when we stop imposing interpretation or narratives on dreams and begin to experience them as images with feelings, image, then we begin to see that the figures in our dreams are really responding to us, the dream ego, the dream point of view. So through that response, we see that what's responding to us very often is doing so with the intention of teaching and loving us, or teaching us how to accept the love that's offered. So it's a kind of, you might say, a teaching in love. And sometimes the love is stronger than some of the love we've experienced in waking life. That also, it can be painful, but can also be very, very helpful to guide us to what we're actually looking for in relationship. I don't know if I answered you, but I'll give you a little piece more.
Yes, thank you. I just needed to hear just a little bit more, because that was an intriguing statement and that left me wondering, So there we go. Thank you. This is a question from Jim, who says, just finished your dream book. It was terrific and challenging. I have 40 years worth of notebooks with my dreams. I'm a grandfather, and I would like to hear your thoughts about helping children with their dreams, especially nightmares.
Oh, thank you, Jim. Thanks for reading. I guess you read the history of last night's dream. Um, so, um, I also am a grandfather, so I can relate. And one thing I would say is that, we're so tender with our kids and we don't want them to experience any difficulties or pain. So, for instance, a child will have a scary dream. There was a monster in the closet or a monster under the bed, and the adult, the parent or grandparent, will say, well, dreams aren't real. Don't worry. And I think as the adult, I think I'm helping. I think I'm helping the child not to feel bad feelings. But the truth is, there are no bad feelings. There are just feelings we need to feel. And so I think a different approach, because when I say the dreams aren't real, I'm also implying the feelings aren't real. And the feelings are real. The terror the child felt is real. So a different approach is to acknowledge the terror, to say, oh, yeah, that was scary, wasn't it? And I get scared too sometimes. And maybe to ask, do you ever feel that way in waking life? What's the closest to having that same feeling? Can you tell me how you felt that? Was it tight here, or can you show me what it looked like to, because with kids you have to kind of not rely totally on words. Can you show me what it looked like? Can you show me what the monster looked like? So by playing a little bit with it and also teaching the child that it's okay to have these feelings in the dreams, we're really also allowing the child to learn feelings from dreams and learn ways of understanding feeling from dreams. And by honoring and respecting the dream world of the child, we're honoring the child's imagination, creativity, and capacity to feel. So very important not to take the shortcut of saying, oh, it's not real, forget about it.
All right, great. Thank you. Wow, this has just been a truly illuminating conversation. We are about out of time here, so I want to go ahead and thank our viewers for being with us today and for all of your terrific questions. Once again, Natural Dreamwork and the Sacred Encounter starts Thursday, December 12th. And again, you can visit naturaldreamworkcourse.com to learn more and to register. So, Rodger, before we cut you loose, do you have any final words for our viewers?
Yes. I think one thing that I think is very important about dreams is the fact that we dream, which we often overlook. If we were inventing a human being from scratch, I might have invented arms and legs, but I'm not sure I would have invented dreaming. And I think dreaming that we all do many times a night is a sign of a kind of life within us of images, a life of imagination within us that we should honor and cherish by paying attention to our dreams and feeling our dreams. So I wish you well with that.
All right, beautifully stated. Thank you again, Rodger. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you this evening. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Lisa, for hosting us, and thank everyone out there for your wonderful questions. Really put me on my toes, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
They certainly did. Once again, I want to thank everyone who joined us this evening on behalf of all of us at the Shift Network. I wish you well and look forward to having you on this course or perhaps another one in the future. Have a great night, everyone.